My sister-in-law is the most ridiculous, spoiled brat that you'll ever meet. Oh, it gets much worse. She is making an outrageous demand. She's saying that I need to donate half of my salary to her church, which, by the way, I don't even attend.
I still don't understand why entitled people always feel like everyone owes them something. The worst is that no matter what you do for them, they will always be ungrateful. I once had an entitled sister-in-law who barely appreciated what we did for her, and I taught her a lesson. The first time I met my sister-in-law, Mary, we did not get along. She was my husband's youngest sister and the last child of their family. My husband had an older brother and a younger sister named Mary, and since she was only daughter and the last child, she got a lot of pampering from her parents and older brothers. My husband loved Mary a lot, and he told me about all the silly things that she used to do as a child and how she would get away with them, because my father-in-law and mother-in-law barely scolded her. Their excuse was always, "She's just a child," and by constantly hearing that, Mary grew up feeling she could do whatever she wanted without being punished or grounded, which contributed to the kind of adult she became. Before I met my husband's family, Jason and I have been dating for about 11 months. I didn't want to rush meeting his family because I was afraid something would go wrong and we would break up like in my previous relationships. Though our family members knew we were in a relationship, they did not know who we were dating. Eventually, when we felt the time was right, Jason suggested that I meet his family first to show how serious he was with me, and I agreed. We fixed a date for Sunday so his siblings could come over too, but before we got there, the house was packed. I had butterflies in my tummy and was shy at first, but my shyness waned when Jason's family, except Mary, received me warmly. I began to feel at home, and shortly after we had dinner. Jason had already told me that Mary was a tough person, but I was not expecting her to act the way she did. She did not return my smile or even say hello. Even when Jason's family came to receive us at the door, Mary was in the living room pressing her phone and showed no concerns about what was happening. The only person she acted friendly to was her brother. She hugged him tightly, kissed his cheek, and when Jason introduced me to her, she had this annoying blank look. I won't pretend I did not see how she scanned me from head to toe and then smirked afterward, but since I was trying to make an excellent first impression, I completely ignored her and focused on Jason, his parents, and my brother-in-law. Later that evening, while we had dinner, I noticed she made several rude attempts to interrupt me while I spoke. Each time my mother-in-law or father-in-law asked a question about myself, she would interrupt immediately or just pretend that she was catching up with Jason, and it was getting on my nerves. Her parents noticed it and politely asked her to let me talk, but she did not listen. It even got worse when I told them where I worked and from my profession, and they had a fair knowledge that I was earning well. She did not like the expression of happiness on her father's face when he asked me to shed more light on the scope of my work, and I could see how angry she actually looked. Based on her previous interruptions, I expected her to say something off point, but she didn't. Instead, she talked about her work, subtly talked down on my profession, and even mentioned that she earned more than I did. Before we went to meet Jason's family, he already told me how childish Mary could be sometimes. I was not expecting a full-grown adult with her complete senses to act like that and embarrass herself in front of, everyone. That evening, when her older brother could no longer take her childness and rude interruptions, he yelled at her in front of us, and she left the table in anger. It was apparent to everyone that she did not want me to speak, and she felt like I was taking her shine every time I spoke. Funnily enough, that evening was not about her or her family. It was about me and Jason. Honestly, I did not take offense. I was just shocked at her overreaction. Also, Jason told me Mary was used to being the center of attraction in their home, and maybe she did not know how to react when she saw me. He even assured me that she would come around with time and we would be the best sister-in-laws in the world. But that never happened. Mary's attitude towards me grew cold and, colder as the months passed. She was a drama queen and was also great at pretending. If we were together, no matter how I tried to talk to her or please her, she would just snub me or focus on her phone. But if there were other people in the room, she would act all sweet, as her family members would think I was the bad person. Each time I complained to Jason about her attitude, which did not match what he saw, he would think I was lying against his sister, and eventually, when he could not take my complaints anymore, he asked me to mind my business and play along with Mary if she believed she was pretending. Even when it was time for our wedding, Mary did not act concerned. She missed family meetings and did not show up no matter how often we tried to reach her. It did not take long before my mother-in-law subtly began to say that I was shutting Mary out of the wedding plans. I didn't know how Mary had gone behind me to tell her family she wanted to help me plan the wedding, but I turned her down and shut her out. She painted me as the black sheep of the family. What a lie! Meanwhile, she was the one at fault. I was so mad when her mother told me, but I had to keep my cool. I did not tell her. I tried calling her drama queen of a daughter several times, but she didn't answer the phone. For peace to reign one day while we were having a family dinner and our wedding meeting at the same time, I asked Mary if she wanted to be one of my bridesmaids in front of everyone, but she declined and said she wanted to be the maid of honor. Everyone was happy when they heard that, and they all turned in my direction, knowing that Mary and I never got along and I was forced to accept. Surprisingly, she jumped in excitement and hugged me. Well, my husband was happy too, and after that, I made arrangements for her dress and everything that she would need. It was very uncomfortable, but I had to do it for everyone. The night before our wedding, Mary did not show up for my bridal shower. Not like her presence mattered or I wanted her to come, but she was meant to be my maid of honor. When I didn't see her, I notified her brother, who did not take it seriously. At 4 a.m., after the bridal shower had ended, she came with a large group of friends. She told me that they have gone to have their own bridal shower on my behalf. I was livid, but because of my big day that was just a few hours away, I decided to let it slide. I slept in a bit that morning, and Mary was gone by the time I woke up. She was nowhere to be found in the hotel, and I began to panic. I dressed up, did my makeup, and the car meant to take us to the church arrived. But Mary did not show up, so I called her several times, but she just did not take my call. Ultimately, I was forced to use one of my bridesmaids as a maid of honor because Mary ditched me. That one almost ruined my day, and remembering how much I spent on her dress made me so furious. She did not contribute a penny to everything she got, yet she believed she could do whatever she wanted, and no one saw her until the reception. And when she came, she told everyone that she had mistakenly slept and forgot about the wedding. Since that incident, I stopped trying to impress Mary or get closer to her. I knew she did not sleep off or forget about the wedding because around the time I was leaving for church, she posted on Facebook and even responded to comments from her friends. She also read all the messages I sent her and did not respond, and eventually, I forgot everything that happened and focused on my marriage and my career. I avoided Mary as much as I could, and she only visited her brother's house when she was sure I was at the office. Years passed by, and I continued to stay away from Mary. Even though she became more competitive and owned the exact piece of clothing, shoes, bag, or jewelry that I owned, I still did not give her the time. I never sat close to her or stayed in the same room at family dinners or Christmas reunions. She was too dramatic and I could not take it. Everyone, including Mary's parents, eventually noticed the space between us, and they tried to get us close by pairing us to cook together in the kitchen, asking us to help set up the table or go grocery shopping together. Still, no matter what they did, it did not change anything. I already had enough problems as an adult, and the last thing I wanted was a drama queen sister-in-law who believed the world revolved around her. Unfortunately, something terrible happened to Mary, and she was forced to come down from her high horse. A year after the coronavirus struck, Many companies laid off their staff, and Mary happened to be one of them. At first, when my husband broke her news to me, he did not sound like Mary had an issue. She was overly confident she would get another good-paying job. But after months of living off her savings, she ran out of money and was forced to move back to her parents' house for the time being until she found a job. While she lived there, her parents provided everything for her, and her brother gave her money whenever she asked them. Mary and I still did not get along, so she never asked me for favors, and I thought we would continue that way until one day, while we were having our usual weekend family dinner, Mary asked if she could help me take my plate and wash it along with hers. Well, I was stunned at her sudden kindness, and so was everybody at the table. That was the first time she spoke directly to me in a very long time, and I knew there was a catch. I unconsciously said yes, because I remember her grinning with my plate and hers in hand, and I turned to Jason and he was shocked, just like me. That wasn't all. After dinner, we were all in the living room, just talking about nothing in particular. Mary came close to me and touched my hair. Then she asked me about the hair cream I was using. At that point, I could see the excitement in everyone's eyes, and from the way that they looked at me, I knew they wanted me to keep talking with Mary, and I did. To me, our conversation just felt fake and awkward, but hey, I guess it's progress. I also did not want to be the one snubbing her, especially since she came to me. From that day, I noticed Mary made every effort to get close to me. I even got a friend request from her LinkedIn profile, but I didn't accept it. On our WhatsApp family group chat, she starts responding to my messages, reacting with these funny gifs, and even commenting on some of my WhatsApp statuses. Everything happened quickly, and Jason was impressed that we were finally getting along. Unlike before, Mary never visited when I was at home, but she started showing up at the house more often. She told everyone that staying at home gave her time to reflect on how she had been treating me, and she wanted to make up for that, but her sudden change did not sit well with me. And since I was the only one who knew her real personality apparently, I did not let myself fall for her pretense. As I expected, it did not take long before Mary started asking me for favors. Anytime she called to check up on me, she claimed, the next thing would be her asking me to lend her some money. When she started it, I thought it would only be one time, and since I had not given her anything after she lost her job, I doubled the amount she asked to borrow, and told her to not bother paying me back. Oh, I was wrong. It was not a one-time thing. She kept asking and asking and asking, and if I refused to help her, she would play her emotional blackmail card, and I would end up doing whatever she wanted. I never told her brother about it because I believed it was a sister-in-law thing, but as times passed, we noticed that Mary became comfortable at home and was no longer searching for a job because she had all of us providing for her needs. Despite our discovery, I did not stop giving her money because I was earning a lot, and occasionally giving $100 or $200, well, it didn't hurt. Even though we weren't friends, everything was fine until Mary made an outrageous demand. She came over to our house that day to tell me the local church that she attended was organizing a fundraising campaign and she wanted me to be part of it. Well, that did not sit well with me, because I was not a member of her church. But I listened. I thought she wanted me to give whatever I wanted until she said I had to donate half of my salary to her church. It simultaneously sounded funny and stupid, so I laughed, thinking she was joking. When I realized she was not joking at all, I told her I could not donate half of my salary to her church, and she took offense almost immediately. Well, she flipped and began to yell at me. She said I was stingy and did not care about others except for myself. She even called me spoiled and said I did not have any use for the money I earned because my husband was earning well too, and it would not hurt for me to donate half of the month's salary to her church since her church needed it more than I did. I was so mad at her, but we did not exchange any words. I told her it was not happening, not even in her wildest dreams, and she stormed out of the house in anger. Later that evening, I was in my room resting when I got a notification from Facebook. She had tagged me in a post that was subtly shading me for not being so generous. I thought she was being childish, so I ignored it. I did not know she would also take it to our WhatsApp family group chat and say horrible things about me without mentioning my name. What makes me the most mad was when she said I did not care about others except for me. That wasn't true. I also donated to charities and other causes that were important to me. I understand that she said her church helped her a lot when she was unemployed, but she did not have the right to insist on half of my salary. I mean, that's crazy. As if subtly shading me on our WhatsApp family group chat was not enough, she began to make silly jokes whenever we had family dinners, and that was the final straw. Out of anger, I got a small personal loan in her name and donated it to the church. Then I added her contact details so the church could reach out to her to thank her. I did this to teach her a lesson, so she could understand the gravity of her demands. What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. Oh boy, Mary is a tough one to deal with. I don't know if OP went a bit too far at the end though, taking out a loan in someone else's name. Ooh. Well, I guess we're going to see if there's any consequences that came with that, because I have multiple updates for you. My name's Mr. Reddito. If you're new to the channel, you're gonna want to hit that subscribe button just for daily videos of some of the wildest stories you will ever hear. Alright, let's just go ahead, jumping into update number 1. The day Mary's church called her to thank her for her generosity, a week after I donated the money to her church, she was in our house with Jason. She was overjoyed and kept grinning on the phone. When Jason asked why she was so happy, she told him her church called to thank her for donating $1,000, and she subtly began to brag about it. I was in the kitchen whipping up some food, and I could hear the pride in her voice. She did not tell her, Jason, that she needs clarification about the money or the donation. In fact, she kept bragging and rubbing it on my face, but she did not know what was coming for her. After our disagreement about donating half of my salary, she gave me space. She no longer commented on my Facebook post or responded to my WhatsApp messages like she used to. It was evident that she was pretending, and she planned everything before she started acting all nice. Her family noticed the distance, but no one said a word. They knew Mary could be a handful, and she could be unpredictable sometimes. Personally, I loved the distance. I could stand her entitled mentality. She habitually walked all over people in the middle of an argument, and I hated it. Most times, I wish she was younger, so I could smack her. But there was nothing I could do. She was living up to her reputation of being disrespectful and rude, and I could do nothing about it. I knew it would only be a matter of time before she found out about the loan, and oh boy, she did. At least she enjoyed the special appreciation from her church and the praises from her church group and members while it lasted. That day, I was at home when she charged angrily into my room. Thankfully, Jason was not at home because she would have made it a big deal if he had been around. She came straight up to me and asked if I collected a loan in her name because she received a call from lenders that she was 1 week late for her loan payment. I told her I was the one, and she got so mad. She called me all kinds of names and said she could not believe I was so wicked to get a loan in her name even when I knew she was not working. What annoyed her the most was that I donated all $1,000 to the church, and she had to pay for it. Well, I was glad she understands what it feels like now. I mean, half my salary was way more than $1,000, yet she was that pained. LOL. When I was satisfied with her yelling, I told her I took the loan to teach her a lesson. She thought donating half of my salary was easy until she learned about the loan. The good thing was I admitted to borrowing the loan in her name, and since she had learned her lesson, I gave her the $1,000 to pay the loan. I did that because Mary was a loudmouth, and I did not want her to tell Jason and the entire family about it. Also, I thought she would try to save face and quietly pay off the loan after she took the money and left my house. Update number 2. Oh boy. We were 2 weeks close to Thanksgiving, and that Sunday, Jason and I went to his family's house per usual. I helped in the kitchen and set up the table while Jason, his father, and his brother argued about politics and how the world's changing. After Mary left my house weeks ago, we barely talked to each other, and we deliberately avoided each other like a plague. I was in the kitchen trying to take the last set of food to the table when Mary came to me and said, "I'm telling everyone about it." When she said it at first, I did not understand what she meant until she mentioned the loan. I thought she was bluffing because I gave her $1,000, so I ignored her and left to join everyone. We barely ate half our food when Mary called everyone's attention except me and announced she had something important to tell them. Everyone was attentive, and they looked in her direction. Then she turned in my direction, locked her eyes, and smiled. It was an evil smirk. When her father urged her to speak without wasting time, she began to sob. And then she told everyone that I was such a wicked sister-in-law. I mocked her joblessness just because she asked me to donate to her church fundraising, but instead of telling her no, I went ahead to get a loan in her name. And I donated it to the church behind her back. And at that moment, the lenders were on her neck to pay back the bill. I still could not believe what this girl has done. After I gave her the money to settle the loan, everyone turned to me and asked if it was true. I said yeah, but I quickly explained why I did it, and I even have given her $1,000 to pay the loan back. Immediately, I told them I gave her the money. Mary tossed her cutlery on the table and called me a dirty liar. Mary told everyone she did not remember confronting me or receiving such an amount. With her denial, her family members were confused and did not know how to believe it. Thankfully, I remembered that I had the proof in my bank history and showed it to everyone. I mean, come on, it's 2023. When Mary saw that she was on the losing side, she changed that she said, and she told everyone she had gotten the $1,000 from me, but I lent her the money and never said anything about repaying the loan. Her family knew she was lying, especially since the transaction description literally said, loan repayment. And the only thing was meaning of one thing. It turned out that Mary did not pay the loan after she received the money from me. Instead, she used it to buy new shoes, just to impress her friends. She believed she could blackmail me into giving her another $1,000 to pay off the loan that had already accumulated an interest. But when I ignored her in the kitchen, she gets mad. Although her family was not pleased that I got a loan in her name, they understood why I did it. There were more disappointments in Mary for showing entitlement and for trying to blackmail me. Jason raised his voice at her and said she was ungrateful despite everything that I've done for her. But Mary yelled back. She said I did not do anything for her and told Jason he should not make it sound like I was the only one who gave her a few bucks. Then she walked out the whole family. Update number 3. After the incident, Mary moved out of her parents' house and moved in with one of her friends. Since everyone blamed her and no one was willing to hold her accountable to pay the debt, she figured she had to repay it herself. She did not show up for family dinners anymore, and her parents did not seem worried. Jason told me it was not the first time she moved out of the house because of a misunderstanding. She did it a lot as a teenager, and they were used to it. So, the family tradition continued without her, and I don't know what Mary had taken the whole thing seriously or not. She was not just mad at me, she was angry at her parents and her brother for supporting me and not her. Her parents were so disappointed in her that they made us promise no one would talk about her when she was around. Meanwhile, her parents believed Mary would return at home when she realized what she had done, especially since she did not have a job. Well, after 2 months she did. Mary came home and apologized to everybody. She even came to our house and apologized to Jason and me. She told us she was confused and did not know what to do. I did not entirely buy her story, but because of Jason, I had to pretend like I did. That was the second time she tried to play a fast one on me. The first one was my wedding day. The second one was the loan, and I knew she was tricky and always had something under her sleeves like a magician. In the meantime, she became incredibly close to Jason and would often spend the night at our house. I had no issues with that until she began to overdo it. She would sleep over 5 nights a week. And with her around, it began to feel like I was always competing for Jason's attention. Whenever Jason returned home from work, Mary would be at the door to greet him, even though she knew that I cooked a particular meal. She would suggest that Jason eat something different, and I did not have the power to ask her to leave our home, even as her brother's wife, so I kept everything in. Mary was getting on my nerves, and she was overdoing it. The only time I had to spend with Jason was in the bedroom, and when he was not in the bedroom, I had to struggle to get his attention. Also, whenever Mary stayed at our place, she did not clean or help around the house. I would be the one to wash her plates, clean her room, because Jason loved a clean house, by the way, and I would still cook for her. Despite this, I did not complain to Jason, not even once. He was already tired of my complaints about his sister, and I was getting tired too. Also, before Mary started sleeping in our house, Jason and I never had serious fights. It was after she started getting close to her brother that our fights began. Updates number 4. Weeks after our fight started, I noticed Jason started acting cold towards me. He barely ate my food, and our intimacy level dropped a lot. If he returned home from work, he would shower, wear something different, and go out again. I was always the first person to return from work, and that was because my office allowed me to take work and complete it at home. As time passed, the distance between us grew. It was very unlike him, and we had been married for years, and I'd never seen him act this way towards me. Whenever I tried to talk to him, he would either say he was busy or was not in the mood to talk. On the other hand, his bond with Mary grew stronger. He began to watch our favorite shows with her, and we no longer went to his family dinner together. It was almost like he was a new Jason, and I was non-existent in his life. When it was beginning to get out of hand, I talked to his older brother about us, but he could not do anything. I knew Jason's new attitude towards me was due to Mary's sudden closeness to him, but I could not prove it. Eventually, when I had enough of his attitude, I confronted him, and to my great surprise, Jason said this. I know that you're cheating on me, but don't worry, the divorce papers will be ready soon. What? I was so confused and did not know what to say. The most heartbreaking part of him processing divorce papers without talking to me. He said he found out 2 months before our fight from an anonymous email that I was having an affair. When he showed me pictures as proof, I was shocked. Someone had been taking pictures of me and a guy I just met. To think I didn't even know his second name. Talk more of having an affair with him. There were photos of me laughing with him. Photos of him pushing my hair behind my ears, and photos of him handing me flowers. I mean, there's no denying that the guy was hitting on me, but I made it clear from the get-go that I was married and I loved my husband. And absolutely nothing was coming between us. I hated that Jason did not trust me and could believe I would cheat on him after everything that we've been through. I was so angry that I moved out of the house, and Jason was not even bothered. Mary was not around when I moved out, but I knew she would be happy. As for the young guy Jason was talking about, he was just a guy who worked close to my office. I was only being nice to him and nothing more. I knew he liked me, but I only treated him like I would have treated any other person. With the new development, Jason and I began to slack at work, and I eventually got a 1-month leave. The day I took some of the things I needed from the office, I bumped into the guy again, but it wasn't like before. I explained that I was no longer able to speak to him because someone had taken pictures of us and sent them to my husband, which led to our separation. He did not need to ask if I was okay because it was obvious I wasn't. I looked miserable, and anyone could see I wasn't myself. He looked sad, but that was it for me. Surprisingly, about a week later, Jason called my phone several times, and when I responded, he asked for my location. I told him I was at my friend's house, and he drove down there where, well, it must have been at the speed of light. When I opened the door for him, he began to beg me, apologize for everything that's happened. He told me the guy in the pictures came to his office earlier that day and told him there's nothing between us. He also confessed that somebody paid him to get close to me and act like my boyfriend. He did not know about the pictures because the lady told him she only wanted to prank me. When my husband asked who the lady was, he gave him a number, and when Jason dialed the number, it was Mary. Mary's name popped up on his phone. We were both very disappointed that Mary went that far to break us up, but I wasn't surprised. I knew she wanted to pay back the loan embarrassment, but I did not think it would get to this. I went home with Jason that day, and Mary was shocked to see us together. When Jason saw her, he starts yelling at her. Then he kicked her out of the home. He even said Mary was the one he confided in when he got the emails, and she advised him to divorce me quickly. Eventually, his family heard about it through the grapevine, and they were furious. We also found out that she was the one, that sent the emails to Jason, and it made things much worse. In the end, Jason told his family he was done with Mary. She was banned from coming to our house and calling me or Jason. Also, Jason disowned her, and we cut all ties with her. When Mary could not stand her family, she moved out of town. And since then, no one's heard from her.
Okay, so Mary would be so ridiculous to deal with. But she's not the brightest tool in the shed. I mean, she had to have realized the $1,000 that she got from OP has a paper trail. It's so easy to go ahead and prove her lie by saying, oh no, here's the transaction I gave you right here on my bank statement, and it clearly states that it's for the loan. So, knowing all this that we know about Mary, would you have handled this any different? Some of the commenters were saying that taking a loan out in somebody's name is dangerous, even if it was the right move, because, it's illegal. So guys, drop your opinions down below. Let's discuss this. I hope you guys enjoyed this wild roller coaster of drama. Make sure you subscribe, and remember, it's cool to be kind. See ya.